welcome to the Building and Growing podcast. We're delighted to have Harjas with us today from Shares. Welcome, Harjas.
Thanks a lot, Lucas. Thanks for having me.
You're most welcome, and it's always a pleasure to do a podcast with an old colleague.
Yeah. I remember fondly our time at Revolut,
Yeah.
getting some late night dinners.
That's it.
The Deliveroo, I think at 8:30 or 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Sitting in the common area.
That's
Special
it.
times.
Oh, mate, they were pre-COVID days when we were always in the office. And had you just relocated from Canada then, or had you been in London for a while?
No, so actually my story is I was born and raised in New Delhi.
Yes.
And then I moved to the U.S. When I was looking to go to college.
Yeah.
Studied there, worked there for a few years, and then eventually made the move to London.
Far out. Oh, I got the Canada bit completely wrong,
That's
eh?
right. I get that all the time.
Yeah, I guess it's because you haven't got that, strong, deep US accent. So I was like, oh yeah, Canada, but damn.
Man, my accent is all over the place. So it's just got various kind of angles, and I think right now I say it's like an international accent.
Yeah, love it.
So yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, look, we're all blessed to have your voice, and picture as well with us today on the podcast.
Definitely.
And you did a bit of an intro there, talking about how you moved from New Delhi to the US, and then to London. But tell us a bit more about yourself. What you were doing before founding Shares, because we'll discuss Shares a lot today.
Yeah, for sure. So as a kid in high school, I was definitely very fascinated with subjects in the sciences.
Yeah.
So studied a bit of physics, chemistry, math. Took a few intro courses to computer science.
Nice.
And then when I moved to the US for uni, I guess math was my favorite subject.
Yeah.
And I think the closest engineering to that, which I ended up studying, was computer engineering, computer science. So I have a pretty technical background from then on, and I worked as a software engineer for a few years in financial services.
Fantastic.
And then eventually, when I moved over to London, I had a big issue. I was not able to open up a bank account.
Of course,
so,
yeah.
So I just was stranded, and I went to like one of the high street banks, and they required a permanent, like a tenancy agreement.
Yeah. I didn't have one either.
Yeah, and I was essentially in an Airbnb.
Yes.
And they didn't accept that. So a friend of mine at the time was like, "Hey, you should open a Revolut account.
Yeah.
They allow you to quickly open an account and start spending."
Yes.
And that's when I came across, and I was like, "This is great. It like solved a core pain point for me."
Yeah.
And I got really like into the scene, the fintech scene in the UK.
Yep.
And eventually ended up, working there. As
Yeah.
you know,
Indeed.
worked there for a couple of years on the trading product.
Yep.
So we had a very, very tight knit team.
Yes.
Still in touch with basically everyone.
Yeah.
Superstar team, built out the trading product together. And yeah, man, really, really proud of what we accomplished there in my time.
Yes.
And I'm even more proud of what they're doing now with the latest releases in Europe and ETFs, and also I think they recently launched in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, it's forever growing. It's the sort of the gift that keeps on giving. The tree of life. But I love how you came across it, because Revolut solved that address problem for you. I know I came across it because I was traveling a lot and I was just getting smashed with FX margins, and so that's
Right.
how I came across it. And when I saw they opened up Revolut Business, I was like, all right, B2B, I can do it, let's jump in. So
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And so after you left Revolut, you started Shares. So tell us more about, tell us about Shares and how that journey began.
Yeah, so like while I was at Revolut, we were building the core trading product, and I felt like there was essentially a need for a social investing product.
Yeah.
I felt that the best version of consumer products are the ones that are intrinsically social. Because generally, a social product has better engagement, better retention, better defensibility, and all of these things baked into it. And I really wanted to give that a shot. I really wanted to make investing social, because investing so far was very much a single player experience.
Yes.
It's very much like you sign up to a product, and then you should know what you have to do, like what to buy, what to sell, how to navigate.
Yeah.
And I felt if there was a social layer built into the product, it could essentially make the utility far easier to use. If I could connect with you, I could look at what your rationale was for buying and selling securities.
Yeah.
I could understand the markets better. And
Yes.
I think generally the retail investing market is very much like very, very novice. They're investing for the first time, and that's where I felt like social could be an enabler.
Yeah, indeed. Because I guess if we think back to, maybe when we were kids, like you'd find out about, different stocks or whatever through the newspaper or through an investment magazine, which might actually only be affordable for professional investors. And then, we weren't able to buy fractions of shares back then. And I remember when I bought my first shares, I think I was paying, and this is in Australian dollars, brokerage fees of $20, and I was only buying $100 worth of shares. It was a 20% sort of fee. But nowadays, I suppose everything being internet based, fractional based, there's a lot more people who can get involved, and there are a lot more opinions to share.
Yeah, there's a lot more opinions to share, and I think there's like if you have a social graph, then essentially there's levels of expertise within that. So you have people who are very, very good at investing, but they're not social at all. They just want to make their money and they want to exit.
Yeah.
So even like defining social has been quite a journey, because some people say like, oh, what is social investing? Is it just a Reddit forum, or is it like a Twitter feed? So I think like that's kind of key, is like understanding what social means to people in the context of investing.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that is the challenging part from a product perspective. It's not just copying a feed or copying like another social product like Instagram or TikTok, because those are very like horizontal products.
Yeah.
And investing is a very niche domain. It's like not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's technical, it's inherently complex to understand. So solving that through social is, I think, one of the key kind of things that really, really drove me to investigate and incorporate in the shares product.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about what that user experience looks like for a shares customer. Maybe starting with how your customers are finding you, and then how they're engaging with the platform.
Yeah, so I think when it comes to finding us, we have quite a unique brand. I think that we've managed to establish in the fintech ecosystem.
Yes.
I think we're seen not as a typical old school brokerage platform. I think we're seeing something that resonates with more people. So by default, people feel like it's a more friendly brand to engage with.
Yes.
It's not intimidating in the first stance, which is, I think, what a lot of the industry leading products feel like.
Yeah.
And I think we were trying to put in a lot of work generally on the brand side of things to make that happen.
Yep.
We also work with really, really inspirational people, such as the Williams sisters, who are our brand ambassadors. We're super proud to have them on board.
Yeah.
So I think these are all things that we've very deliberately accomplished so that we can create that brand sense.
Yeah.
And I think we've used a lot of the social channels generally to promote those promote the product. And I think being a social product, it intrigues people to find out what that experience is.
Yes.
So if you're a traditional investment platform, people can right away compare you to other investment platforms.
Yes.
But for us, what has been key is that when you do think about a social offering, people are just intrigued. They're like, oh, what does this mean for me? So they sign up looking for that key experience.
Yeah, fantastic. And so do you offer an app, a web portal? How do the users engage with shares?
Yeah, so it's essentially mobile only.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's like the application is available on both the app stores.
Yeah.
And in our key kind of onboarding journey, we try to connect people to their network right away.
Okay.
So the goal is to introduce them to people they already know in life, so you can sync your contacts.
Oh, wow.
So if you signed up today, I would get a notification saying Lucas, one of your
Yeah.
friends, just signed up to Shares.
Fantastic.
So right
Yeah.
away we tried to establish like a core network,
Yes.
which allows you to get that feeling of familiarity on the product, and that's kind of the key kind of action that we're trying to take as we're activating you.
Yeah.
And I think after you get connected to somebody, you might look at what they're owning, and that may also help you decide how you want to proceed with your investment journey on the
Yeah.
product.
Fantastic. And earlier on, you mentioned a bit about the sort of the rationale, for why I might own some of Part A or Stock A as opposed to Stock B. What type of, I guess, messaging or remarks are people able to leave about their portfolios?
Yeah, so actually we have a like in our core order flow, we allow you to write commentary
Yes.
about why you chose to purchase a specific security.
Okay. Wow.
It's completely optional,
Yeah.
but I think for people that are social, that like to actually write and communicate and engage,
Yes.
we've seen that they organically write about their investment thesis,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's one way to solve the education gap in investing, is when you can actually see someone share their opinion,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
For sure.
It's just like, hey, this company reported great earnings,
Yeah.
and I think their 1-year projections are XYZ, which is why I decided to purchase that.
Indeed.
So it just gives more context to the trades,
Yeah.
which I think was very much not present in like the first generation of investment brokers.
Indeed.
So yeah, generally there's commentary around trades. We also have pretty much a very like a free flowing feed where you can ask questions, you can post content. So for people who want to become influential on the product, there's a way for them to write content and get visibility.
Okay.
So traditional social network dynamics are at play. If you're writing good content, if you're producing valuable content for other people, you will get that visibility on Shares.
Indeed. And so that way people are able to, be within the app and talk about, different portfolio decisions and trends without having to go to a separate forum.
Yeah, and I think ultimately you can't prevent them from doing that. I think people have very set ways of getting that information.
Yes.
Right? Like if someone follows somebody really great on Twitter and that's how they make their investment decisions, that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
we're not trying to like really be like, no, like you should just not leave the app. We think that people will do those actions still. What we're trying to do is that when you're on Shares, you're still getting a similar value, and you are actually getting complementary and better information that still keeps you coming back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you might just completely resonate with this personality on another social platform. That's completely fine.
Yeah.
But we
Fantastic.
do hope that on our product, you still understand and get context around the investment space.
Indeed. And look, shares are one form of many different investment products that are available. And as we've seen interest rates rise, people have been talking about bonds. But what type of investment products are available on Shares?
Yeah, so I think it's important to give a bit of geographical context to that too.
Yeah.
So currently we are live in the UK right now,
Yes.
and we have a pretty expansive asset universe, which is single stocks only.
Okay. Great.
It's pretty much all US stocks
Yeah.
that we offer pretty much fractional investing.
Yes.
But very shortly, we are testing a complete all asset product in France.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's currently going through production testing.
Yes.
And that product will essentially allow you to buy all US stocks, European stocks, cryptocurrencies, and ETFs.
Wow.
So that's going to be pretty much an all-inclusive product.
Yeah.
With basically encompassing pretty much all investment options that you desire, all including tax-efficient wrappers.
Yes. Okay.
So we're solving that entire funnel for people who are looking to invest in a way that works out tax, like provides them tax benefits essentially.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I know certainly in the UK, when I invest, where possible, I wrap it up in an ISA,
Right.
Because of the tax benefits that exist there. But unfortunately, there's not every fintech has an ISA, but I'm sure that we'll see that change in the future. I suppose, you've talked about the fact that in France, you'll be able to offer a lot of different services. In the UK, it's currently fractional stock investments. There's a lot of infrastructure that goes into providing these services. I've done a bit of research on sort of trading as a service companies that might service fintech so that they can offer stocks. Are you able to talk a bit about what goes on in the back end, how you're able to make these products available?
Yeah, so I think it's a big industry, and there's been quite a few players that have kind of risen in the last 4 or 5 years. As the retail trading was going through this boom cycle.
Yeah.
Plenty of companies in the US, even in Europe now, offer a very easy capability to almost plug and play, right?
Yeah.
So you can actually plug into them, and they offer pretty much the entire funnel. Like, you pass an order, the order is then it's routed to them, and they essentially take care of the execution, the custody of the assets, and you just have to run a settlement process with them to settle, the transactions between your users and their orders.
Yeah.
There's quite a few in the US. You have companies like Drivewealth, which we used it at Revolut.
Yeah.
And at Shares, we work with a company called Alpaca.
Okay. Yeah. I know them. Yeah.
They're pretty popular.
Yeah.
And in Europe, there's a provider called Upwest that allows access to European securities and ETFs.
Nice.
So that's, I think, a good way to get to market quickly.
Yeah.
If you want to test out an offering, check out demand.
Yes.
And then eventually build your entire infrastructure yourself. That's how you can kind of proceed if you're trying to go to market quickly.
Indeed, yeah. And it's one of the perfect sort of examples of fintech. It's like how to go to market quickly through technology. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. So, did you guys found the company in 2021? Was it?
Yeah, it was in 2021.
Yeah.
April timeline. We're just coming out of COVID.
Yes.
Still under lockdown, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we pretty much started it remote. Initially,
Incredible.
I was just working with people on remote calls.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's how we got started. Yeah.
Far out. Yeah. And how many of you founded it?
So it's me and two of my co-founders.
Yes.
Benjamin and Francois.
Nice.
They're both based out of Paris, and I'm based out of London.
Yep.
So we have 3 offices, essentially: Paris, London, and Krakow, Poland.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool, and we keep moving back and forth. We go see each other, every month or so.
Fantastic. That's great. And look, I guess the funding environment and, the whole global environment was different back then. We were coming out of COVID. There was still, a fair bit of money flowing into different startups and tech. Interest rates were low. 2022 came along, and we've seen interest rates rise ever since. Valuations have been, smashed. How have you seen sort of user behavior on the app change across that period?
Yeah, it's very similar to, if you look at just investing as a job to be done. Even if you look at the funding environment, how VCs invest, right? Yeah. Their investing styles have completely changed.
Indeed.
Right.
Yeah.
So in 2021, the way they were investing has changed. The companies they were investing has changed. The check sizes have changed. And I think that's reflective of just investing as a problem space.
Yeah.
And that's completely reflected even in the retail investing space, where there was just an influx of cash. And even during COVID, people weren't going out, so you just had more money to spend, and that was just being spent on a lot of times speculative assets.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I think stocks was one of the kind of regulated ways of investing, but then you saw how there was a bubble around crypto.
Yeah.
Also, things like NFTs, which were also seeing an influx of cash. There was this whole movement around alternative assets, which was also gaining a lot of popularity. I'm not saying that those assets are not valuable anymore. I think they are, but it's just that due to the economy, there was just more of a flush of cash into
Indeed.
those instruments.
Yeah.
And I think now people are just a bit more cautious.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
just a bit worried about what's going to happen to the money.
Yeah. That's
Right.
it.
Like you can see like jobs, like the jobs data came out, and there are companies that are laying off more and more people. So it's just tough out there.
That's it.
And when people now invest, they're a bit more careful. They want products that are different from like 2 years ago.
Indeed.
So as an investment product, how can we allow them to invest sort of items such as like savings? How can like the platform allow them to save give them a better interest rate than their bank?
Yeah.
Allow them access to instruments that are more beneficial in the longer term. So if they keep kind of recurring investments into these assets, they win in the long term. So I think those investing fundamentals have almost come back again.
Yes.
For a period, I think everyone had sort of forgotten those. But I think now we're seeing that it's very much about like very tax efficient, long term, savings based approach.
Yeah, indeed. I think, like people, the marginal propensity to consume during COVID was much lower, I think, and there was, a lot of money on the side as a result. And so, some people did speculate, but as you've mentioned, when the taps started tightening, and inflation came along as well, I think people realized like, shivers, I've got to, take money out of some assets as well in order to just pay the bills. I know I certainly had a £700 electricity bill during winter last year. It wasn't fun.
Yeah, and even the geopolitical landscape, like things are getting more and more expensive. Energy prices are rising, and it's just a tough economic climate right now. To be playing with your money essentially. Indeed.
Yeah. So you talked about building products which are allowing people to invest for the long term, maybe take advantage of compound interest, as Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham used to talk about, being the eighth wonder of the world. I think it's a timely moment for me to ask you what the product roadmap is looking like for 2023, 2024.
Yeah, I think our focus as a company right now is very much around, as you mentioned, like solving like problems for users, which is that they really just want to invest in and like be able to save for the long term, like for their long term goals.
Yeah.
And I think the way we're planning to solve that is first allow and prioritize assets that help them do that. So definitely access to ETFs. And savings products, essentially is the focus, and then wrapping that all of that asset universe in a tax efficient wrapper per country is something that we think is how people want to generally invest, and I think that's currently like our focus. On the social side, we are looking at connecting people who don't know much about investing to experienced investors who are passionate about investing. So that almost there's a connection on the social side which solves the problem for both parties. So like the people who are experienced, they gain influence by sharing their insights, which we refer to as the hard side of the network. And essentially the people who are curious to consume, curious to understand, they gain value through these people. So it's a mutually reinforcing relationship, and I think that's how we're positioning the social side of the product.
Fantastic.
And on the investing side, we're really making sure that this utility that we have works in the benefit of all users. And allow them all the products that will essentially work for them in the challenging economic times that we're seeing right now.
Fantastic. And so, you touched upon the fact that you're live in the UK now. France is, going to be rolling out soon. Do you have plans for any other markets?
Yeah, I think we are going to also beef up the UK product to match up with France.
Nice.
There's a few bits of work that we're currently engaged in this quarter and next quarter that will allow us to allow our UK audiences access to the same securities.
Nice.
So hopefully we can we can get that live ASAP. So I think UK, France are top priorities, and then after that we will try to be very strategic about which countries in Europe are key for us to win.
Yeah.
And then generally we're our license allows us now to be live in all European countries.
Fantastic.
So we will be available in all countries starting next quarter.
Excellent.
And then we'll probably go country by country, make sure that that tax efficient style of investing is available in those key markets.
Yeah, fantastic.
So invest in each country one by one.
Excellent, excellent. And earlier on, you touched upon a term which was jobs to be done, and you've just talked about sort of problems that customers, face that you solve. I think I came across the jobs to be done terminology before as part of design thinking. I think it is. So, I guess this is a bit off topic, but how do you, what frameworks do you use in order to sort of map out what the customers need and how you want to solve problems for them?
Yeah, I think it's a balance, right? Like we do conduct user research to understand core customer needs in the investing space, especially when we're trying to define social. A lot of times nobody has the answers. So you really have to deeply investigate customer emotions, customer desires, like why are they really coming to your product? So there's an element of that on the research side. But then I think there's a very strong element of being very intentional on building things that have worked and being able to execute on that quickly. Right. I think a lot of times products become slow to execute because they're very deeply invested into this research based mentality. But I think something we learned at Revolut was that it's better to ship fast, execute, learn, and then iterate.
That's right.
So I think ultimately that's the core of product development at Shares, that we want to ship things as quickly as possible.
Yes.
But there are certain pieces in the product, certain areas where we do invest time to understand those customer motivations.
Indeed.
And then balancing that with like data to understand like, okay, if people are saying that, do they actually need it, or are they just saying that because it sounds great, but they would never use that.
That's it. So, not every hypothesis ends up being what we expect, eh?
Right. Sometimes you'll see people saying, hey, I would really use your product if you build this. Right? And you build that and they never use it.
Which is hard, eh? It sucks when that happens.
So it's just about balancing that insight with the data, with your intuition and product experience and competitor insights, to then be able to like distill all of that into like the signal that is core to building the perfect product. Yeah, indeed. So that's kind of the job, basically.
I think that's a fantastic summary of it, because it shows why like data is so important in terms of validating those hypotheses, because I'm sure there are many product managers out there who have said, look, customer, we listened to you, we built this, and then why don't we have any active users on this new product that we shipped?
Yeah, I mean, I think oftentimes it's they don't even like realize that they need it. So it's like there is a need, but they don't know what will solve it, and that's your job, is to introduce a product or service that solves that problem for them.
Indeed. Harjas, we've covered a lot in terms of Shares, what you guys do and what the roadmap is. Before we wrap up, do you have any key takeaways that you've found have really helped you both, as an operator and now as a co-founder of Shares?
Yeah, man, there's so many. So I'll try to keep it super brief. I think the first one would be like, I think you need to try a lot of different things to figure out like what is it that you truly enjoy doing. And I don't want to talk about this line which says that like have that be super passionate about, like, I think it means different things for different people. But I think if you're going to be spending like 14, 15 hours, 16 hours a day on something, you need to get some level of enjoyment from that.
For sure.
And I think for me, I realized that building products was something I genuinely enjoyed. It didn't really feel like work to me. I can sit down right now and talk with you for hours on how we can improve X product. And that would just be a great conversation.
For sure.
So I think first is really like try to figure out what gives you enjoyment, because that will help you put in the time that it takes to become good at something.
Indeed.
I think the second thing is I think probably to to get asymmetric returns in life, you need to pursue asymmetric endeavors. So it's like working hard is something that you just like have to value and you have to do.
Yeah,
And I think it's like there's basically no shortcuts, is what I've learned.
Indeed.
To build great products, it takes time and effort and passion to really nail those things.
Indeed.
So those are, I think, quite you can hear them everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think they've been pretty true for me.
Indeed. And look, I mean, it's one thing to hear them, it's another thing to apply them, and you've applied them, and that's led to where you are today. So it's
Thanks,
fantastic.
No, it's awesome, and I think the third is just have fun, just make some friends along the way, and definitely record your experiences, because in 5, 6, 7 years, I think those memories will be some of the best times that you had. So sometimes it's just about recording your journey and looking back with it and being like, oh, these are some of the things that we did together. Just have a great time.
That's it. Yeah, no, I agree. And record it, because it's funny how perspective change, and you know during the pandemic I used to write stuff down, and I was like, oh wow, like I used to think that way. My brain like works differently now compared to back then. It's incredible.
Right. Oh, makes sense.
Yeah. Harjas, thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing shares expand across Europe in the next few months.
100%. We're super pumped, and thanks for having me again, Lucas.
You're most welcome.
Cheers,
Thank you,
man.
mate.
Thank you.
Cheers.